Okay. So I just noticed, I apologize about this. The dates are a little off. I don't know if you noticed that. It says week 1 over and over again. It's obviously each one is another week, right? I wasn't expecting to do that in 1 week, of course. That was for like a 5-week course, and I just forgot to change it. I'll fix that very soon. But this is where we should be at. Let me minimize all this. That's the problem. Here it is. So week 1, that was a long time ago. This is week 2, so you should have done. It's still everything's still open, so don't freak out. You should have done at least a couple of quizzes by now. They're open notes. There's no camera. You can do whatever you want. Just take your time, and it's for practice to keep you fresh. Also, I have a video in here on the review that we're about to do and talk about. So I've opened that up. So the exam is in here, which is a required respondus. Just make sure that's installed and set it up. There's also a video in here by my friend Bill on how to set it up. So I'm hoping at this point you've all already done that on your personal computers. If you don't have one or have issues with that, let me know. You can also check out laptops, of course, and calculators, right? But anyway, just make sure you go to modules and take care of those quizzes and make sure you know where the exam's at. Okay. There is no due date on it yet. I'm going to put Monday the 28th as the day it closes. Okay. At that point, we'll be far beyond material for exam 1. So I'm hoping that you'll already taken care of it. The 28th at midnight. Make sure you start a couple hours before. I'll give you guys 2 hours, I guess. Alrighty. Now we're about to print these out. He's still on his way, but if you open your My Labs, in here you have a review for test 1, part 1 and part 2. So I believe that's what the video is about. But we're going to do it together as well. Okay. So let's look at it. There's an easier way to look at this. Questions. That's great. There we go. It's about 28 questions. Of course, the exam's not that long. This is for practice. Okay. So let's start from the beginning. Just a second. So it'll start off with the first thing of section, chapter 1. It's just the fraction review. Okay, so this is testing your order of operations, but also your fractions. Okay, now I think I have it. Let me go grab those. Left in my office. Because I want you to use your calculator that you're allowed to check out or purchase, whatever you want. I'm not going to force you to show all the little steps. Okay. You write that. Okay. right, so for the first one, number 1. Does everyone have the calculator already or no?
Still waiting on a response from mine.
No, I'm not on yet.
Okay. So for number 1 and number 2, all I want you to do is use your calculator. So I'm going to show you how to do it. All right, so just like you see it on the paper and on the review, you need a stapler.
No.
You got it? Okay. You just press the parentheses and type right here, actually, there's a fraction button. So press the fraction button, 1/2 minus fraction button, 1/3. So just the way it's on the paper, it will handle the order of operations for us. Nice. So I want you to just know how to punch it in. Okay. So I'm not going to force you to show me the work on these. And I think on the respondus, there's no work required. So as long as you pick the right options, you'll be good. Okay. But anyway, so number 2. So I'm going to make a note here. What I want you to do is use the TI-30 for both of these guys here. Okay. Pretty much all the order operation questions, I would like you to use your calculator. Okay. So 1 through 7 could easily be done there, but let's try a hard one together. Let's see here. So as long as you use your parentheses and you take it slow, you'll be fine. So I do want to note that the negative symbol is different from the minus symbol. Okay. And also notice how there's a power, but they don't outright tell you if there's parentheses on the negative. So let's do that guy real quick. So real quick here. If you see it written this way, I'm going to write a note here. -2 squared means the negative is outside. Okay. So don't let them mess with your head. You square it first and then attach a negative. If it's written this way, then you know what they're saying, right? Square everything. That will give you a 4. This would give you a -4. So anyway, let's go ahead and do it. So you press the minus symbol just to be safe, just because I don't trust anything. I'm going to put parentheses around the 2 and square it. It's probably not necessary, but I know exactly what I mean. I don't know, when I see this, I'm always paranoid. Okay, what exactly do they mean, right? They should be meaning this, so I'm going to do that. Plus 4. Now, if you see brackets, that's the same as parentheses. Just there's no bracket on this machine, but you can put just 2 sets of parentheses. Nothing special. Don't let them bother you. So just assume it's another set. So parentheses for the first bracket, 12 divided by parentheses for the next one, close parentheses, close bracket. Okay. So it's going to be the same thing. Just remember that if you have a negative symbol in front like this, you have to use the minus symbol. Okay. Do not use the subtraction. Subtraction is fine if you're subtracting inside, but don't. Like for example, if I would have said minus, and it won't even let me really. Oops. Then we do minus 3 squared, right? I'm gonna get an error. So as soon as you see an error, you should think, okay, I probably used the wrong symbol. Or maybe I put too many parentheses or I didn't close one off. Go back and check. Okay. But anyway, so that's how you do this guy. Just remember, we'll do this. What does this notation mean? What do brackets mean? It's the same thing, right? So let's do another one more of these with our machine and we'll move on to something else. I would like you all to work through all these questions at some point on your own before you take the test. Once you feel comfortable or you feel like you didn't really need that many notes, then you should be good to take the real one. Okay. And again, it's open until the 28th at midnight. You have a lot of time. But notice how this one has a squiggly bracket or a set bracket, and it has regular brackets and parentheses. They're just trying to distinguish that they're separate, but they mean the same thing. So you're just gonna have to use the same symbol because our calculator isn't super fancy. But even if it was, I don't think I'd want to cycle through parentheses. I don't want to be doing that. So first set is the squiggly, bracket, regular. Notice how there's 3 parentheses in front, right? So just open 3 of them. Don't worry about it. 11 minus 18. Close the first set. So that's the inner one. Minus 5, that's the bracket. Minus 2, that's the squiggly, the final one. Then I'm going to square the entire thing because notice on the paper that you have, the 2 is on the set bracket. So that means it's going to square everything to the resultant side. So if you were to do this by hand, like we did in our first lecture, you would first work from the innermost parentheses, slowly work all the way out. And at the very end, you would square. But we're not going to worry about that. 196. I believe did you print the answer key too, Michael?
I did not have that.
Oh, really? Okay, that's okay. I'll send it to you guys later. I'll throw it in a reminder or something. 196. Cool. I feel like that's probably right. Anyway, guess feel comfortable. I'll try to see if I can bring, well, I don't think they'll let me. Does everyone know the instructions on how to check a calculator out? Like there's a lot of steps. I think you have to apply on the link on the website, print your schedule, and then come, right?
You click on the link, you fill out a form, it sends you an email, you print the email and print a copy of your schedule. You have 2 pieces of paper when you walk into the office. to get the calendar.
Yeah, so they won't give it to you until you have both papers.
Click on the link, fill out the form, email, print the email, print your schedule.
Okay, do you mind sending them the link and the steps at some point now? So when you get a chance. That way you know exactly how to do it. Oh, cool. So it wasn't immediate?
Yeah, it wasn't immediate for me. Somewhere, I don't know if one of the emails goes through now, or if Melissa has to go through and do something.
Nice. Okay. Well, hopefully it's not too much longer, but. They used to be $8. I don't know how much they cost nowadays.
$21 at the bookstore.
21. Oh, well.
I think you can, like the $18 range, that's Amazon.
Oh, well. I guess that was a long time ago. I don't remember. But that's not too bad, right? So far, I think you should, the parentheses and the operations, it's not too hard to punch in, right? Just remember the symbols. On these type, I would start with a fraction bar. So like clear, start with a fraction and then just work on top and then scroll and then you toggle it up or down with the arrow and just work accordingly. Okay. And it's going to do, so it knows it's been programmed to do all the PEMDAS for you. It's gonna do the parentheses first, exponents first. So even though we talked about how to do it by hand already, I'm cool with you doing it this way. I want you to focus on the ideas. Stuff like 10 and beyond, we have to do all that by hand. So let's focus on that. So do number 10. 10's not gonna really, well, the calculator's not really gonna save us for these types and the line questions, so. Let's get to it. Evaluate the following. Expression for the value given. So in the example 10, they said x is equal to -3. And they give us a equation here, or a function. So all you have to do is evaluate, meaning just plug it in and simplify, okay? You could use your calculator once you plug it in, so, but you need to understand how the parentheses work and understand that this is a negative symbol, right? So what you would do is plug in -3, plug in -3. So put parentheses on everything you plug in, wherever you have an X. That way we know exactly how to punch it into the machine. If you choose to do it by hand, this will also help you from messing up sign errors, okay? So we know that this is a negative. Well, first of all, PEMDAS says we should do the parentheses and exponents first. So this would be a 9, right? 4 times -3 is a negative. 4 times 9, -4 times 9 is negative. All right, so you could do it by hand. What is that going to be? We could also do it here. Negative symbol, square. So the caret right there will let you create an empty box for exponents. So you can put whatever number you want, but they have a dedicated button for squares. So you could type in the 2, or you could just hit the square button and it'll do that part for you if you want to. Plus 4 times negative symbol, not minus 3, minus 5. So -53, which is the same as this guy here, right? So yeah, just set it up, and I would just recommend use your scientific calculator at that point if you're scared to make a mistake, okay? Any questions on 10? Do you see what they're asking when they say evaluate? That's all they want. Just plug this in. Okay. 11 and 12, 13, oh, actually 11 and 12 are the same, but let's do 12 just because it looks a little harder. Evaluate given x equal to 4, y equal to 6, 3x minus 2y plus 10 over 3y minus 2x. Okay, so everywhere you have an x, you're going to put a 4. Just make sure you put it in parentheses. That way we know how to punch it in, or we know how to prioritize the operations. Plug in the 6 as well. So that will be 3 times 4 minus 2 times 6 plus 10. So it's all on the top. That 4 looks ugly. 3 times 6 minus 2 times 4. So at this point, you could just punch it in. Let's just try it this time. 3 times 4 minus 2 times 6. So since you put the parentheses, it understands it's going to be a product. Plus 10, toggle downward, 3 times 6 minus 2 times 4. It's a fancy way to write 1, I guess. I always think that's silly when that happens. But let's check ourselves for just for the hell of it. 3 times 4 is 12. 2 times 6 is 12. 3 times 6 is 18 minus 8. Yeah, it's 10 over 10. Same thing. Anyway, you understand what they're asking for, right? As soon as you see that word, right? Evaluate, plug in the numbers and just simplify it. That's it. Okay. So let's move on to 13 and 14. So these we have to do the work completely. Okay. You guys cool on the 10 and 12? No questions on this? All right. Thirteen. All they say is simplify. So when you see that, that means multiply things out, combine like terms, that type of stuff, expand powers. Simplify the algebraic expression. So 4 times 5x plus 4 minus 15. So back to PEMDAS stuff, right? Parentheses is first. We will have to distribute that 4. Let's do it. Oops. 4 times 5x, 4 times 4. That'll be 20x, right? 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 4, 16. So now that 15 is ready to be combined with that constant. So anything that's the same type, combine them together. There's no other x's, so that'll just be there by itself. 16 minus 15. Is there anything else we can do to simplify? No, right? Like we must also know when to stop. Don't try to force it thinking there's more things to do. Right? If you see a bunch of terms, remember what is a term, right? If you see a term and there's nothing else like it, it's not going to combine. You don't see parentheses anymore, you don't see powers, then just move on. Let it go. I know some students have difficulty with that. Okay. Let's do 14 just because it looks hard. Same instructions. Simplify. So 5 minus 4. 3 minus 5y minus 5. So what would you do first? Yeah, we have brackets and then parentheses, right? So we should always do the ones in the inside first, the innermost. in front of the innermost, we have a minus. Just distribute the minus. Can I combine this 5 and 4? These right here. You feel like you want to, right? But we cannot, because we always do priority, right? Multiplication comes first, so don't be that guy that subtracts those by accident, because now everything after is going to be fake, right? It's going to be wrong. So innermost first, so don't get distracted by this. And don't feel bad if you thought about that, because I have people in calculus that still do those kinds of things. So it happens. Distribute. So basically picture a -1 there, multiplying everything. So what I like to think about is, if I see a minus in front of parentheses, everything comes out as opposite signs. I don't think too hard about it. This is currently positive, right? 5y. It'll be a minus. This is currently negative. It'll become a positive. And that's because it's being multiplied. Now at this point, we're working inside the brackets. We finished dealing with the other parentheses. We're not going to mess with this 5. This 5 will be the last thing you do. There's a 3 plus 5. Those are the like terms that we have. So 3 plus 5 is 8. There's nothing else to do inside, so now we can multiply the -4. So -4 times -5. -4 times the 8. That'll be what? 32, right? So the only thing that is the same or similar is going to be the 5 and the -32, right? You can't do anything with that 20. Looks like a 6. That 20. So 20y is just going to be here. 5 minus 32, what is that going to be? It's going to be negative for sure. 20 what? 7. There we go. All right, so we keep basically just subtract them and keep the sign of the bigger one. That's it. Nothing else. All right, so you can also check yourself here if you wanted to. You could have said, oh, you know what, I don't really care. 5 minus 32, and then just do this piece there and to write it down here, right? You can always check your work or use this to help you out. It's up to you. This, what's up?
Do the variable, but again, -27.
That's weird. What was the variable standing for, I wonder? Because you can store stuff into the X. Type just a variable by itself and press enter. Type the variable by itself and press enter. Yeah. It's 0? So they save the X as 0.
So like I typed it in. And
That's funny. Yeah, I guess you can.
the process, all the other stuff, but
Yeah, so if it assumes that y is 0, the y is just not there at all. So this piece would be gone. But if there was a y in front, they would mess it up. It wouldn't have worked out right.
yeah, if you multiply.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't think we can use it a lot to our advantage, sadly. Maybe if it was no. It was too situational. Anyway, any questions on 13 and 14? Is that cool? Does it make sense? Okay. So 15, 16 is very similar. Something may be a little easier. So let's move on to something else. 18 is simplifying, but they have fractions. So let's do that one just because it looks annoying. Let's check it out. They all have the same denominator, so we don't have to worry about LCDs, right? So what I recommend is when you see something like this, assuming you got the LCD, but no matter what, get everything that's the same together, like all the K stuff, all the number stuff, on just group together. So this is what I'm gonna do. Right? That way I can work piece at a time. So I'm gonna write down the original problem real quick. I guess there's some constants in there, so it's not completely ready. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is group anything with a K first. So here's the first one, the next one, and that one there. That's all of them, right? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and there's 3 K terms. Now all the constants come next. Now something you could do with your calculator is add these together and just pretend there is no K and just tack the K on later if you want to. Because these are all just pluses and minuses. There's no multiplication. So we could do this to 14/9 minus 2 plus 2/9. Does that make sense? Because basically that's like we're saying there's a bunch of K things we're adding together, like a bunch of apples, right? So this thing plus that thing plus this thing together. So we just know that when we get the answer, it's K of them, right? So this right here, and all this garbage, is technically -2/9 K. So we could avoid the LCD that way if you want to. These are just numbers, so we'll do it exactly the same way. So 11, 9, plus fraction button 2, 9, minus 6. So then that'll be in here, minus 41/9. Does that make sense? Do you want to see how to do with LCD, or is this okay? It's okay. All right. So just remember, like you still have to remember the concept, right? If you use your calculator, make sure you understand which things you are able to add together, right? You can only add things that are the same. If there was a K squared in here, you would not be adding it, right? Like suppose that this 14/9 had a K squared. You would have to keep it separate and only add these two. If there were constants, you only add constants. Right? Don't forget the like terms rules. Don't forget what a term means. Like all that stuff is important, right? You need to practice and understand. But I do want you to use a calculator to help you out. Just don't rely on it too much, right? It's a great tool. Don't let it screw you over. All righty. 20. Let's look at this one. It's just a visual idea here. So write the inequality in interval notation and graph the interval. So if, remember I told you in class that, I think it was maybe last week, if the X is on the left side, then you just graph wherever the arrow is pointing, but the X is on the right side. Do you agree that this is the same nonsense as this? It's the same, right? But where is the arrow pointing, right? Check it out. Is it pointing at the same thing? So long as it's pointing at the same thing, I didn't change anything. When the X is on this side, then all I have to do is graph in this direction. So I'm just gonna, it's pointing to the right. So I look at the line that has direction to the right. This has a left direction. This has a left direction. So right away, those are wrong. The next thing I look at is, okay, there's a equal to, meaning bracket, right? Remember we said has a bracket. So this one does not have a bracket. So right away, it's going to be B without even really thinking about it. But let's think about it. -1/4 is right below 0, close to 0. And then it keeps going to the right. So it's once it's on this, once it looks like this, I can just say, go here and then keep going to the right. But make sure you include the -1/4 because that's what this means. The equal to means I'm starting on there, not right after. Parentheses means right after. Okay. So if there was no equal to part, you would have chosen A. So it's just greater, you would choose A. Any questions on 20? So what do you guys think the interval would be, the notation? How would you write it? You have the visual. So how do you write this as an interval notation? Do you remember? It was a week ago. So use this to guide you. Okay, so use this to help you out. Remember, bracket means it'll be the same for the interval, right? Bracket on this number. And since I'm going to the right, you just put parentheses on the infinity, going to the right forever. This is what this visual is saying, right? If you had this one, this would be going to negative infinity, right? We can actually write the notation for all of them. This, I mean, even though these are all wrong answers, just for fun, right? This is the answer for this one. This one has this answer. And then this one has parentheses. You see the differences, right? So the equal to is what really told us which one to choose. Any questions on 20? Given an inequality, can you graph it and can you find the interval? Okay. Let's move on then. Ready? Real quick, 21. Notice how X is in the middle and there's two inequality symbols. So when you see the arrows pointing to the left, that means that X is between 0 and 2. So just, I prefer to think of it that way because thinking of 0 less than or equal to X less than or equal to 2, that just sounds weird in my head. So when I see these symbols, I think, okay, all the numbers between 0 and 2 is what they're talking about, but they're including the 0, but not the 2. So there should be a parentheses on the 2, right? Bracket on the 0. This, it's hard to see, but it has a bracket. I guess I didn't print out a little bit. On the 0, parentheses on the 2. Right? I think it just cut off, but that's what it should have said right here. And once you have the graph, I mean, this is basically an exact translation to the math symbols. And the answer for interval would be 0 to 2. Is that straightforward? Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna leave these to you. This is the same stuff. Same stuff here. 24 looks a little different. Because see how they have an or? So basically you're just graphing two separate portions together. So x greater than or equal to 1, that means I have a bracket at 1, right? And you keep going. So which one has a bracket at number 1? Well, here's 1. This one has a parentheses. This going the wrong way, isn't it? This didn't write anything. That's weird. But anyway, x greater than 1 looks like it's probably going to be C, right? Maybe. Now let's look at the other one. Less than or equal to -6. So I got to go to the 6. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, -6. So -6 to the left direction. Just keep going. So yeah, looks like it's satisfied. So this piece here says 1 to infinity. This says -infinity to 6. Right? So you have them two little separate pieces. So you would just put that together in notation and say, all right, well, put a union in between and we're good. You union the two different intervals for each part. Any questions on 24? Does that make sense? Okay. I'm going to assume you know how to plot points. I'm going to move on. You guys cool if I turn the page? All right, okay. Okay. These are more plotting points. I'm gonna move on from that. You guys okay with not plotting the points? You guys comfortable given an X and a Y, you know where it goes? Let's move on. We did talk about it already, but I don't want to use up time if you know how to do it. 27, it says write an equation for the line shown on the right. So this is a lot about chapter 3 that we just started, I think on Tuesday, but also Thursday last week. So there's many ways we can do this. We can use 2 points to find the slope, and then use that slope equation I gave you last on Tuesday. So I would recommend your notes here. M is equal to y2 minus y1. We're gonna need this guy. Also the point, so there's a slope formula, and then the point slope formula is y minus y1 equal to m times x minus x1. You can use these two to get y. You could also try to eyeball the slope, because remember the slope is the rise over the run, right? So if I start right here, what is this point there? Looks like 2, 3. You guys agree? And this one is 0, 2. Is it? Oh, you're right. Thanks. And the other one? 0, 0, 3. Okay, that was off by 1. My bad. 0, 3, 2, 2. Okay. So do you see how the line from left to right is going downward, right? So that should tell you from the concepts, right? The slope should be negative.
Yeah.
It's decreasing, right? So when we solve for the slope, we better get a negative number or we mess something up. Another thing we can do is count the rise and the run. So from here to here, what is the change in the height there? From there, this point to that point. Yeah, it went down 1, right? On the Y. Do you agree? How much did it move over on the X? Yeah, it went to 2. So this is a 2. This is a -1. So the slope should be -½ Now, if we were to use the formula, we should get the same thing. Let's say this is my x1, y1, x2, y2. So 2 minus 3 over 2 minus 0. That'll be -1 over 2. So yeah, same thing. So if you have the line in the graph and you have pretty numbers, I would say just count it yourself. But if the line is nasty and there's a bunch of fractions or decimals, then yeah, probably best to use a formula and your calculator. Okay. Once you have the slope, we could use this formula to find the line. But we should also remember that the original line in slope intercept form comes with, all it needs is a slope and the y-intercept in order to complete the equation, right? Do we have the y-intercept? Do we have the slope? So we have the answer, don't we? So what's the y-intercept? Like, where does the line touch the y-axis? Right, where does it intercept the y-axis? At 3, right? So the b is actually 3. So the answer would be simply -½ x, right? That's the m that we found. So that's going to go right there. Plus 3. That's the intercept, 0, 3. So you could use this formula like we did in lecture last Tuesday, or this past Tuesday. Plug in the point, plug in the slope, solve for y. You're gonna get this anyway, right? Or you can just do it conceptually and say, you know what, I can see the slope, I can see the intercept, plug it in and move on. It is up to you how you solve this, either with this or just thinking about it, right? Given the graph, you technically should be able to just peel the info off of it without really doing much work. Assuming they give you nice points. But once you start seeing like weirdo numbers, I'm probably gonna do this instead. Anyway, does that idea make sense? 27? Not too crazy. Okay. Doing that, so can we do the same thing over here? Looking at this line, I want you to try it. Can you figure out the slope? It's going to be negative for sure, right? How far down does it go? How much across does it go? couple minutes. Okay. So what did you guys get for M? So it goes from, sorry, that's, yeah, 0, 3 here. Goes down 1, 2, 3, 4. It goes down 4 numbers. Technically, that should be where the negative goes, but it doesn't really matter. Just so we understand that it went down 4, so it's a -4, right? We moved 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 across in the right direction, which is positive, so it stays positive. So the slope is -4/5. So I'm assuming you guys got that, right? You guys get for the intercept. Where's the wall? Yeah, it's gonna be 3. This is your B. So what is the answer, right? Just plug in the M and plug in the B. Since we have our graph, we can be lazy, which is cool. Now, if we did not have a graph, let's go ahead and do it the other way, just in case it comes up. 0, 3 will be my X1, Y1. And my second point that I chose was the one they highlighted, 5, -1, X2, Y2. So really quick, M should be the difference of the Y's, difference of the X. Y2 minus Y1 would be -1 minus 3. 5 minus 0. -4 over 5. Right, no, nothing crazy. That's what we expected. That's what we got. Now, if we use the point slope formula, you can choose any point you want after you plug in the X, right, or the slope. I'm going to use this one because it looks easier to use. You could use that one if you want. It doesn't matter. So Y minus 3 is equal to -4/5 times 0 minus, sorry, should be X minus 0. So this Y and this X, they just stay like that. You plug in the numbers of the Y1 and X1. So Y minus 3 is equal to -4/5 X, right, distribute. There'll be a 0 there. -4/5 times 0. Add the 3 over. Notice how we get the same thing. So you would have to do this if you didn't have the graph to get all the info from, right? If I only give you 2 points, we're most likely going to have to do this. Anyway, does that make sense? All right, so that's part 1. I don't think we have time for part 2, but we can look at it. You guys cool on this problem? And there should be a video there of part 1 and part 2 as well. My friend Bill sent me his recording, so I can use that too. There's no reason why not to watch that. Number 1 is something we've already talked about. It's just greater than. So no bracket, right? Which one has a bracket? So these are wrong. This just highlighted everything. That doesn't make any damn sense. I'm pretty sure there's an answer because I don't see a problem with this. So it has to be A or D. And X is on the left side and it's pointing to the right. So you think it's which one? Yeah, it has to be, right? The other one is pointing to the other direction, which is not true. Number two, same thing, right? No bracket. So if you see a bracket, get the hell out of here. Pretty sure there's an answer. So B or D. Yeah. Pointing that way with a parenthesis. So good. Anyway, let's move on. So it looks like it's very similar. I think part two might just be similar practice. Beginning is the same. 6 looks like it's similar, but a little harder. They put squares instead, but as long as you remember what is a like term, it'll be the same, right? We did one of these on Tuesday, and I uploaded the video as well, dealing with slope. Okay. Median. Oh, I see. Yeah. So they're basically having you use a formula. So they're saying that M is this guy, F is that guy. Use the appropriate formula to find the median weekly earning of male college graduates. Okay, in 2005. So male and female. So 2005 pertains to what number? Okay, so N, this is the key part to this question. N represents the number of years after 2006. So 2006 would be what number for N? Yeah, either one. What's 2005? So that would be, N would be 0 for 2000. So N would be equal to 5 for 5 years later, 2005, right? So N is 5, so you would plug in the 5 for all these N's, and you would find the male median weekly salary. So I would just plug that into your calculator. I would just say, you know what? You want me to plug in 5? Cool, let's do it. Negative symbol. Actually, I need a fraction first. Negative symbol 2 times N 5 squared plus 170 times 5 plus 5115 over 5. So negative 863. Does this formula overestimate or underestimate the earnings shown in the bar graph? In 2005, they said males would be 1167. Did I punch in any wrong numbers here? Yes, I did. I put a minus at the end. Like, negative salary is very concerning. It's like, man, that guy got screwed. I don't know what he's doing. So 1183 was what we got for plugging it in. 2005 they calculated 1167. So ours is overshooting it by a little bit, right? So you would say it overestimates by that much. I think it's a little over. What is it? Like $16, right? That's BS right there. So all you got to do is take this number. So if you highlight it, you can just press enter and copy it downward. So you can always cycle back to previous things and copy them by pressing enter. Minus what they got. Yeah, 16. So that's what we said. Okay. We're just almost out of time here. So females, you do the same thing. You just use this formula. It's the same thing. 8, 9, 10. And beyond will be what we did last Thursday. So solving for X, be careful, show all your steps so you don't mess it up. On the exam, I'm not gonna require your work. Just make sure you type in the right X value, right? You guys have any concerns or questions? Because next week I'm moving on to new stuff. I can't, as much as I want to keep reviewing, I have to move on. It's okay. Right, feel free to come to my office hours if you need anything. Please go to tutoring lab and let me know. Yeah, you also have Michael. Michael Fiesel will help you out. Set up an appointment with him. It's in there, right?
Thursday night, from 6 to 7.
Oh, cool.
Evening time.
Yeah, he's very available. Please take advantage. Also, you sent the calculator information?
Yeah.
Okay, so please get the calculator. If you're gonna check one out, I would start doing that today. That way it's, you'll have it by the time you need it. Okay. And if you still haven't gotten a response, I would maybe email them again and say, hey, what's going on? How long has it been, you said?
About a couple of days.
Okay.
I got an email saying due to high inquiries and whatnot, it will take a while.